Hi, I'm Nancy Berliner with HPE Technical Product Management. This video will cover all you've ever wanted to know about managing host groups in the Data Services Cloud Console, or DSCC. I'll demo the basics of hosts and groups, and then move on to advanced topics like editing a host and how to work with hosts that have been created externally to DSCC. In DSCC, hosts are managed in Data Ops Manager in the Data Access area. A host group is a collection of hosts which represents a cluster of servers, such as an ESX cluster. When you're creating a group, you can select an existing host from the list or add a new host by clicking Create. DSCC supports Fibre Channel, iSCSI, and NVMe connected hosts. Mine is connected via Fibre Channel and is a Windows server. I'm now presented with a list of all the available Fibre Channel host initiators that have been zoned to my storage arrays. If you're creating a host definition in preparation for a host that hasn't yet been installed, you can manually add its initiators to the list. But my host is zoned and connected, so I'll cancel out of that, select the appropriate host initiators, and create the host. One thing you might have noticed is that I didn't need to select a storage array to be associated with the host. That's one of the benefits of using a cloud-based fleet manager. You can define the hosts and host group just once and use them across all connected storage arrays. That's a lot easier than creating individual host definitions on each array. I actually have a second host in this cluster, but I created it off camera using the same process. So I'll just make sure it all looks good and create the group. When a host group and hosts are created, the definitions are not immediately propagated to the storage devices so that we don't create a sprawl of unnecessary definitions. Instead, the definitions are created on the device on demand when volumes are presented to the host group from a system. And if those volumes are replicated using active peer persistence so that both the source and target LUNs are available for reads and writes, hosts will be defined on both systems. My hosts are named G10, 107, and 108, and in the on-array UI for one of the attached storage systems, you can see that those hosts don't yet appear. So let's go to intent-based provisioning and create some volumes to present to those hosts. Similar to the way a host group represents a cluster of servers, a volume set in DSCC is a collection of volumes that represent an application instance. Grouping volumes and hosts together makes it easy to present the entire set of volumes for an application to a cluster of hosts in just one action. Any new host added to the host group will automatically see all the volumes exported to the group, and any volume that's added to the application instance or volume set will automatically be exported to the host group as well. With a volume set, you can take or schedule consistent snapshots. And even if you have only a single volume, using it with a set helps with application tagging. Once you've entered all the required information, the intelligence associated with intent-based provisioning will automatically recommend the best fit storage array for your workload based on the available performance and capacity across the fleet. In addition, if you specified a host group in the first step, it will select only those storage arrays that have access to those hosts. Volume sets have the additional advantage of granting freedom from the character restrictions imposed on individual volumes. A set's name can span up to 250 characters, which allows you to use something really descriptive. As I mentioned earlier, hosts and host groups created in DSCC are created on the storage only when volumes are exported. You can see those actions in the volume creation subtasks, and you can now see the hosts and host groups in the onboard UI for that storage array. Here we are in DSCC after I've provisioned some additional storage and started up a workload. Since a host in DSCC represents a physical server in a customer's data center, only one entity in DSCC represents that server, even though it may be connected to multiple systems. You can see which systems a host is connected to and how many paths are available from each of those systems in the Systems tab for the host. In the Volumes tab, you can see a 30-day trend of IAPS and throughput for the top 5 volumes connected to this host, although in my case, it's been only a short time since I started up a workload. The header has a total capacity and performance for all volumes connected to the host over the past hour. And if you scroll down, you can see the performance broken down by volume for each storage system. Next, I'll cover editing and deleting hosts and host groups. First, let's add a new host to our group by using the pencil icon to edit it. This host group spans multiple systems, so only hosts created in DSCC are eligible to be added. And since any new host added will automatically see all the group's volumes, a definition for the host will be created on any affected storage arrays. Now I'll edit the host named G10107. Normally, it's not recommended to have a single initiator connected from a host, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm removing one of this host's initiators. When you edit a host or host group, the changes are updated on all the devices where the exact definition of host group and host exists. I'll cover this later, but there are circumstances where a host can have one name on the system and a different name in DSCC. That wouldn't matter. The match is found by comparing the initiators of the host and not the name of the host. If you delete a host, all volumes will be unexported and it will be deleted from all storage arrays where the matching host definition exists. Now I'll delete the host group altogether. When a group is deleted, the member hosts are removed from the group, but the hosts themselves remain on the system. However, since volumes in DSCC are presented to host groups and not to individual hosts, the host will no longer have any volumes associated with them. Next, let's delve into what happens when you have hosts and host groups created externally to DSCC in either the CLI or on-array UI. Since those hosts and host groups are created on a single system, their names in DSCC will include that system name in parentheses. For the demo, I've created host G947 in a host group also named G947 on 2 storage arrays seen by DSCC. It's actually very easy to consolidate this into a single definition within DSCC. All you need to do is create a new host group and host with the same initiators. The new objects will need to have a different name, but since hosts are matched by initiator, not by name, that's no problem. As soon as the task finishes, all hosts and groups are automatically consolidated into a single view across all available systems. Just be aware that doing this doesn't change the name of the host on the individual systems where it already exists. It retains the name it had previously. For the last part of the demonstration, I'm going to edit that same host with the on-array UI and remove an initiator. After a host group and hosts are created in DSCC, if you change a host with an external tool, it results in a new host and host group definition in DSCC. That's because the configuration is now specific to that device and so must be represented individually in DSCC. But if I were to edit the host again so that the configurations match, the individual view in DSCC would be removed. I hope you've enjoyed this video. For more information, visit hpe.com/storage.